For my 30th birthday, I booked a cozy family dinner at our favorite restaurant. No one came. A few weeks later, my mom sent out invitations for my little sister's 25th. A big life milestone. Price of admission? $500 per person. So I sent her $1 with the note. For your big celebration. Some months later, a police officer knocked on my door because my parents told everyone I was mentally unstable. Let me tell you how we got there. My name is Kate Walker. I was 29, and all of this happened right before I hit 30. That magic age when relatives suddenly decide your uterus is on a countdown and your personality is up for public discussion. I'm a freelance graphic designer in Portland, Maine. I do branding for small businesses, logos, color palettes, social media headers. Nothing glamorous, just deadlines, coffee, and way too many Zoom calls. Work comes in through referrals and a couple of freelance platforms. 2 years ago, my income was finally steady enough to get a mortgage on a tiny one-bedroom condo. The interest rate is rude. The payment eats about a third of what I make. But it's mine. When the walls start closing in, I pack up my laptop and go to a co-working space downtown that overlooks the harbor. I sit by the window, pretend the fishing boats are my co-workers, and answer client emails about how the logo should be brighter but calmer. Somehow. Growing up, I was the quiet, easy kid. Straight A student, no drama, did what I was told. My little sister Maddie? The opposite. You probably know this dynamic. The younger one is a walking excuse. You want a new iPhone, Maddie? Of course, sweetheart. You failed your finals? It's okay. You'll retake them. Meanwhile, I was the one who didn't need anything. Our parents, Linda and Robert Walker, are a very average American couple. My dad works in supply at a boat repair yard. My mom runs the front desk at a private dental clinic on Maple Street. No one's rich. No one's starving. They still live in the same neighborhood where we grew up, about 40 minutes from me if the highway isn't being a nightmare. Maddie still lives with them. I moved out right after college. She never quite launched. Different story. The important part is, I always told myself I wasn't resentful, or I thought I wasn't, right up until my 30th was on the horizon. 2 weeks before my birthday, I sat in my little condo and tried to figure out how to celebrate. I didn't want some big party with half strangers from the co-working space. I wanted something small and real. There's this restaurant on the waterfront, Harbor House, that's been around since the 90s. It's where we went for every special occasion when I was a kid. Their fish cakes are legendary. Their chowder tastes like the Atlantic in a good way. I decided, that's where I'd turn 30. Just me and my family. Simple. I called my mom. It rang forever before she picked up. In the background, the TV was blasting some reality talk show where everyone screams over each other. Hey, Mom, I wanted to ask about my birthday, I said. I thought we could all go to Harbor House. Just family. You, Dad, Maddie, and me. I'll book a table for 4 at 6 p.m. on Saturday the 14th. She went quiet for a beat. Fine. We'll come, she said finally, like I'd suggested a trip to the DMV. That was it. No, oh, that sounds lovely. No, we'd love to. Just, fine. I told myself she was tired. Long day at work. Good mood postponed. After we hung up, I texted Maddie. Hey, 14th, 6 p.m., Harbor House. Family dinner for my birthday. You coming? She replied almost instantly. Okay, I'll be there. No enthusiasm, but at least she answered. Low bar, but still. I booked a table for 4 by the window. The hostess even remembered us. Said it was nice to see me again, and made a note about my birthday. I actually felt a little flutter of anticipation. The next 2 weeks, I threw myself into prep. I found a dark blue dress at Harborview Mall. Not ball gown dramatic, but definitely nicer than my usual zoom from waist up outfits. It cost about what I usually spend on groceries for a week. I told myself turning 30 happens only once. I got a haircut, did my nails, tried very hard to feel like a main character instead of background extra. Work, of course, chose that week to explode. 3 clients all wanted final designs by Friday. So I camped out at the co-working space every evening, tinkering with fonts and colors while people asked, "So how are you celebrating?" I told them about the family dinner. Everyone smiled and said, "That's so sweet. Very cozy." Saturday came. The weather was strangely mild for a March in Maine. Blue sky, barely any wind. I cleaned the apartment, ran a load of laundry, took my time in the shower, did my makeup carefully, and slid into the new dress. In the mirror, I thought, for 30, I don't look too bad. I got to Harbor House 10 minutes early. The hostess, woman in her 50s, recognized me right away and led me to our table by the window, already set for 4. The place smelled like dill, fresh bread, and something buttery and fishy that made my stomach growl. I sat, ordered a glass of red, and started waiting. 6 p.m. No one. I checked my phone. No texts. No missed calls. Weird, but okay. It's Saturday. Maybe traffic is awful. 6:15. Still no sign of them. I started to get that little prickle of worry. I called my mom. Long rings. Then it cut off. I called my dad. Same thing. Texted, "I'm at the restaurant." "Where are you?" Nothing. Our waiter, a young guy named Anthony who's been there a few years, came over. "Want to order while you wait?" he asked gently. You could see he was already feeling bad for me. "Let's give them a few more minutes." I tried to smile. 6:30. My heart was doing that slow, heavy thud. What if there'd been an accident? A flat tire? Something with Dad's heart? I called again. Voicemail. Texted both of them. "Mom, Dad, I'm getting worried. Just let me know you're okay." The other diners had started glancing over. One woman at a nearby table kept looking at the 3 empty chairs around me. Woman alone at a table for 4, staring at her phone. You know the picture. By 7, my cheeks were burning. Anthony came back. "Are you sure you don't want anything? I can bring something small." I wanted to sink through the floor. "They're just running late," I said. "They'll be here soon." Even as I said it, I knew something was off. My family may not be saints, but disappearing without a single text? All 3 at once? That wasn't them. 7:30. My phone finally buzzed. Text from my mom. I opened it, already braced for a car wreck or a burst pipe. "Honey, I'm sorry. We're at Harborview Mall with Maddie picking out a dress for her birthday. Didn't notice how time flew. Happy birthday." I read it 3 times. They were picking out a dress for Maddie's birthday, the one that was a month away. While I sat alone at a restaurant table I'd booked for my 30th, the one I'd reminded them about 2 weeks earlier. I wanted to write back paragraphs, say everything at once, how they'd hurt me, how betrayed I felt, how this was the ugliest thing anyone had ever done to me. My fingers hovered over the screen, but nothing came out. I put the phone face down, waved Anthony over. "Can you pack everything to go?" I asked. He blinked. "Sure. Family emergency?" "Yeah," I lied. They couldn't make it. I hadn't even ordered yet. I just asked him to box the things I'd planned to share. Fish cakes, chowder, a couple of salads. He nodded, gave me that soft, pitying look people save for dumped brides and abandoned puppies, and took the menus away. By the time I walked out, my phone was buzzing with birthday messages from friends and coworkers. I ignored them all. Pretending to be happy felt impossible. I went home, put the takeout straight in the fridge, climbed into bed, and basically didn't exist for 3 days. After that, life insisted on happening again. My best friend Jenny Reed, who sits across from me at the co-working space, slid into my DMs. "So? How was the big family dinner? Everyone else was asking too. I wrote back that there'd been a family emergency and we'd postponed. It was easier than explaining. Jenny cornered me on a Wednesday. Look, she said, Friday night. The dock. That bar by the co-working space. We're doing a proper birthday. No excuses. Okay, I agreed. On Friday, there were about 10 of us crammed around a long table at the dock, drinking decent beer, swapping horror stories about clients and their revisions, and singing Happy Birthday, while I blew out a candle stuck in a cupcake from the bakery down the street. No drama, no raised voices, no guilt. Just friends having a good time. It was simple. And it hurt a little, realizing how much easier it was with people who didn't share my DNA. What happened at Harbor House might have been survivable on its own. I could have filed it under "my parents are thoughtless" and moved on. But it wasn't a one-off. During that coffee shop showdown later, I actually made a mental list. They skipped my childhood art contest, where I won second place, because Maddie had a dance recital. They missed my presentation at a college research conference because Maddie didn't feel like staying home alone. They showed up 45 minutes late to my honors thesis defense because they had to drop Maddie off at a friend's house first. I sat alone while other people took photos with their families. Last year, when I got promoted to senior designer at a firm before I went freelance, they didn't come to the staff party because Maddie had a cold. Not COVID. A cold. Meanwhile, they never missed any of her stuff. Not the dance competitions, not the school plays where she had 2 lines, not the barely organized showcases at the community theater. I had always told myself I was being oversensitive, that they loved us both equally. I just happened to be more independent. Skipping my 30th for a shopping trip? That was the finish line. I tried to let the dust settle. A few weeks passed. My birthday was officially old news. Then one night, an email pinged from my mom, CCing half the extended family. Subject line: Maddie's 25th birthday celebration. Important info. You know when your stomach drops before your brain has even processed the words? That. She'd booked a fancy banquet hall at a hotel in town. Maddie's 25th was an important milestone, a quarter of a century, a once-in-a-lifetime event. There would be a DJ, photographer, custom decorations. Very big deal. And then the kicker. We're asking each adult guest to contribute $500 toward the celebration. If this is too difficult, please understand if we can't include you. We want people who truly support Maddie on her special day. $500 per person, after they couldn't even bother to show up and eat fish cakes on my 30th. I walked circles around my condo, muttering to myself like a street lunatic. $500? Are you kidding me? I opened my banking app and pulled up my mom's account from the last time I'd transferred her money. For a second, I considered ignoring the whole thing. Just delete the email and move on. Then a better idea arrived. Petty, yes, but satisfying. I transferred her $1. In the memo line I wrote, "For your big life celebration." Then I blocked my mom, my dad, and Maddie everywhere. Phone, text, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. If they wanted to act like I didn't exist, fine. I could return the favor. The next morning, I called a locksmith. When I'd bought the condo 2 years earlier, I'd given my parents a spare set of keys. Just in case. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Now it felt like a liability. The locksmith swapped out the lock cylinder. New keys, old ones useless. We were done sharing access. 2 days later, I caught a nasty flu, so I was working from the couch in sweatpants, wrapped in a blanket with my laptop balanced precariously on a pillow. That's the lovely thing about freelancing. You can design logos from under a comforter as long as the Wi-Fi holds. Around lunchtime, someone pounded on the door. Not a polite knock. The kind of pounding people use when they know you're home and think they're entitled to your time. I jumped, spilled tea on my keyboard, and crept to the peephole. There they were. All three of them, Mom, Dad, Maddie, standing like they owned the place. Mom was digging through her purse. I knew exactly what she was looking for. The spare keys. Good luck with that, Linda, I thought. I heard the faint scrape of metal in the lock. Nothing. Try again, my dad muttered. Another scrape. Then my mom shrieked, Kate, open this door right now! We know you're in there! The lights are on! I stayed silent. This is beyond disrespectful. Maddie's high-pitched voice chimed in. You're acting like a child. $1? Seriously? You embarrassed us in front of everyone. So I had embarrassed them. Interesting. Kate Walker! My mom barked in the same terrifying tone she'd used when I was 6 and broke a plate. If you don't open this door immediately, there will be consequences. Consequences? What exactly? Grounding me? I'm 30. I pay my own mortgage. I put on my noise-canceling headphones, turned on white noise, and went back to editing a client's design mock-up. They yelled and rattled the handle for about 20 minutes. Then the noise moved away. Through the window, I watched them stomp back to their car, my mom waving her arms dramatically, probably explaining to the universe what an ungrateful daughter I was. Maddie's big day rolled around soon after. I held out until evening. Then, I'll admit it, I cracked. I unblocked my mom on Facebook for 5 minutes to look at the photos. The venue itself looked expensive. Gold balloons, pink ribbons, white tablecloths. Very Instagram. But the room was basically empty. Maybe 15 people max. My parents, Maddie, and a handful of others scattered around a sea of vacant chairs. Maddie's smile was stretched and brittle, like a mannequin. My parents looked like they were at a funeral. I took screenshots, re-blocked my mom. Same night, my cousin Jake called out of nowhere. We'd been close as kids but drifted. He didn't even say hello, just launched right in. What the hell is going on with Maddie's birthday? I laughed. Nice to hear from you too, Jake. Your mom is trying to shake everybody down for $500, he said. My mom called to say that was insane. Your mom told her, if you don't have the money, don't come. So my mom very politely declined, said, thanks for the invite, but we don't discuss those kinds of amounts. Good for Aunt Paula, I said. Oh, she didn't stop there, he went on. She called all the relatives. Turns out your mom told everybody the same thing. Pay up or don't bother showing. So no one went. Well, almost no one. I heard Uncle Tim and Aunt Tammy showed up. They've got money to burn. $500 is like $10 to them. Serves them right, I said. Your mom's also telling everyone you've gone off the deep end, he added. That you skipped Maddie's birthday out of jealousy. So I told him the whole story. Harbor House, the dress shopping, my dollar transfer, the blocked numbers. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he just went quiet. That's messed up, Kate, he said finally. Like, really messed up. 2 days later, Aunt Paula herself called. She hadn't gone to the party, but she'd already heard exactly how it went. Sweetheart, we need to talk, she started gently. If you're calling to tell me to apologize, you can save your breath, I said. No, she sighed. I'm calling because your mother is telling everyone you're having mental problems, that you didn't come to Maddie's birthday out of envy. She keeps saying you started drama over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I repeated. Aunt Paula, they didn't come to my birthday at all. Instead of a family dinner for my 30th, they went dress shopping with Maddie. That's not a misunderstanding. I walked her through the whole timeline. Harbor House. The text. The silence. When I stopped, there was a long pause. I didn't know, she said quietly. Your mother never mentioned your birthday. At all. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'll talk to her. Do what you want, I said. I'm done chasing them. A week later, my phone rang at the co-working space reception. Kate Walker, you have visitors in the lobby, the receptionist said. I had a bad feeling immediately. I came downstairs. Of course it was them. My mom looked ready for battle. My dad was shifting awkwardly from foot to foot. This is a circus, my mom announced loudly enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. My own daughter blocked her mother. Is that normal? Ma'am, this is a workspace, not a family therapy room, the front desk guy said. I need you to keep it down or leave. I'm not going anywhere until she talks to me like a human being, my mom yelled. If you want to talk like a human being, you don't ambush your kid at work, I said through clenched teeth. Normal people show up to birthdays they promise to attend. You're being irrational, my dad chimed in. It's obvious you need professional help. My friend Jenny poked her head around a column. Want me to kick them out? She whispered. I can do it politely. I shook my head and grabbed my bag. You want to talk? I said. Then follow me. We walked across the street to a small coffee shop and took a table in the corner. I ordered a double espresso. I had a feeling I'd need it. Okay, I said. Go ahead. You're tearing this family apart. My mom started immediately. No, I said. I'm protecting myself from this family. From what? She demanded. We love you. Interesting way of showing it, I said. Let's do a little test. She frowned. What? What was my major in college? I asked. She blinked. Oh, some kind of design. Graphic design and advertising, I said. And Maddie's major? Public relations and theater. She answered instantly, without even thinking. Right, I said. You know every detail about Maddie. For me, it's some kind of design. That doesn't mean anything, my dad protested. What's my favorite color? I asked. They glanced at each other. Maddie's is pink, I added helpfully. And mine? Silence. Dark blue, I answered myself. Like the dress I wore to my 30th. The one you skipped. This is ridiculous, my mom muttered, but softer now. Maybe for you, I said. For me, it's proof you've never really seen me. I was convenient, independent, didn't demand attention. Maddie was the baby. She always needed something. That's not true, my mom said, eyes starting to shine. Oh, really? I said. When Maddie didn't get the lead in that community theater play, you spent half an hour chewing out the director. When I didn't make the finals of the citywide design competition, you told me, better luck next time. When my company promoted me, you skipped the celebration because Maddie had a runny nose. That's different, my dad said weakly. Those aren't the same situations. How exactly are they different? I asked. Explain it. They couldn't. You're keeping a list, my mom snapped finally. That's not healthy. You're paranoid. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just finally stopped gaslighting myself. She rolled her eyes. You need therapy, Kate. This is all in your head. Here's what's going to happen, I said, standing up. If you keep showing up at my work or my home, I will file a police report for harassment, and then I'll ask a judge for a restraining order. My mom's mouth dropped open. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I said. I don't want to see you again until you can admit you were wrong. Not just about my birthday, about the way you've treated me my whole life. Until then, stay away. I left them sitting there and walked back to the co-working space, hands shaking. I'd always imagined that kind of confrontation would feel satisfying. It didn't. It just felt necessary. 3 months passed after that coffee shop ambush. 3 blessedly quiet months. I buried myself in work, hung out with friends, and even started seeing a guy from my gym, Max. He's normal, which felt like a revelation. He picks up his own emotional mess, doesn't expect a woman to be his therapist, and has parents who actually attend his milestones. Wild concept. Life, it turned out, was pretty decent when I wasn't constantly bracing for disappointment from my own family. Aunt Paula became my unofficial family news correspondent. She'd stop by every couple of weeks with a cranberry pie and updates I hadn't asked for. "The latest theory from your mother," she said one Sunday, sitting at my kitchen table, "is that you're having a midlife crisis." "I'm 30, not 50, I snorted. "That's what I told her," Paula said. "How can it be midlife at 30, Linda? You're being dramatic." She also became my mom's courier. Out of nowhere, my mom had apparently started baking, something she hadn't done in years, and kept sending Paula over with apple pies and cobblers for Kate. I ate the pies. They were good. I didn't unblock my mom. "She's trying, you know," Paula said softly once. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe it just bothers her that I'm not playing the convenient daughter anymore." One random weekday morning, I was checking email in my pajamas when someone knocked on my door. Not the angry pounding from before, a firm, official knock. I peeked through the peephole and saw a man in a police uniform. My heart stuttered. I opened the door a crack. "Can I help you?" "Kate Walker?" he asked. "Yes." "I'm Officer Mark from the Portland PD, he said. "Your parents filed a complaint." Of course they had. He glanced at his notes. "They're concerned about your unstable behavior. They said you threatened them and sent an insulting bank transfer." I almost laughed. "Come in," I said instead. He stepped into my very boring, very clean condo. Laptop on the table, half-finished coffee, stack of design books. Not exactly the lair of a deranged criminal. I told him everything. I kept it short but honest. The forgotten birthday, the $500 ticket to Maddie's party, my $1 response, the lock change, the scene at my door, the work ambush, the coffee shop conversation. He listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. "So the insulting transfer was $1, he said finally, lips twitching. With a sarcastic memo, yes, I said. "I'll plead guilty to petty." "There's nothing illegal about being sarcastic with your own money," he said. "And nothing I've heard suggests you're a danger to yourself or anyone else." He paused. "What I do see is a family conflict that they're trying to solve by dragging the police into it. That's not what we're here for." He gave me a card. "If they keep showing up here or at your workplace, you can file a proper harassment report," he said. "If you really want that restraining order, talk to the court clerk. But for now, I'm going to mark this as no further action." "Thank you," I said. Part of me wanted to ask if he'd go back and tell my mother I wasn't insane, just tired. But I figured reality would get to her eventually, one way or another. After he left, I sat on the couch and realized I wasn't shaking. For the first time in my life, an authority figure had listened to my side of the story, looked at my parents' version, and quietly decided I wasn't the problem. That did something deep in my chest. About 6 months have passed since the Harbor House disaster. According to Aunt Paula, my mom had her own moment of reckoning. She ran into an old friend, Karen, a nurse, at the clinic where she works. They started chatting, and of course my mother began complaining about her ungrateful daughter, who threw a tantrum over a birthday and was now punishing them. Karen, bless her, didn't play along. She apparently looked my mom straight in the eye and said, "Linda, do you realize what you did? Your daughter put up with this for 30 years, and you couldn't even show up to her milestone birthday. You picked a dress for the younger one instead. And now you're surprised she snapped?" At first, my mom snapped back. Then, according to Paula, she just broke. Started crying right there in the staff room. They talked for 3 hours. "It really shook her," Paula said. She's not ready to admit anything to you yet, but the wheels are turning. Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't. In those same 6 months, my life has quietly rearranged itself. I'm working. I'm seeing Max. I meet friends at the dock. I take long walks along the harbor. I come home to an apartment where no one screams at me or gives me the silent treatment. And I'm not begging for crumbs of attention from people who think love means you'll put up with anything. Will I ever speak to my parents and Maddie again? Maybe. If they're ever capable of sitting down as adults and saying, we screwed up, not just once, but for years. Or maybe we'll never have that conversation. Either way, my life is no longer a waiting room outside their approval. They told me with their actions, there's no place for you at this table. So I built a new table. And at this one, there's no room for cruelty, manipulation, or family loyalty that only works one way. But I do wonder, from the outside, did I go too far by cutting them off? Or did I finally go just far enough? What would you do in my place? My in-laws left a note on my 11-year-old's bedroom door. We gave your dog away. Your cousin didn't want it around. Don't make a scene. She showed it to me, crying. I didn't cry. I did this. The next morning, they got a knock at the door and started screaming. By the time I got home from work, I could tell Sophie had been crying for a long time. Her eyes were swollen and red, and her nose was pink and raw. She was waiting for me in the hallway, still in her school clothes, hands clenched into fists at her sides. Mom, she said. Her voice came out hoarse. You have to see this. My heart dropped. What happened? She didn't answer. She just turned and walked toward her room. I followed. There was a sheet of paper taped to her bedroom door. White printer paper, black marker, big block letters pressed hard enough to dent. We gave your dog away. Your cousin didn't want it around. Don't make a scene. For a second, the words didn't make sense. They just sat there like a bad joke with no punchline. Then my brain caught up. My chest went cold. I pulled the paper off the door and opened it, as if there might be some softer version written on the back. There wasn't. Where's Sadie? I asked. Sophie's face crumpled. She's gone, she said, and the word broke in the middle. Her bed is gone. Her bowls are gone. Her toys. Everything. I came home and... She stopped, sucking in a shaky breath. They said she's not coming back. Sadie wasn't just a dog. She was a small red and white spaniel mix with long, silky ears that Sophie used to braid when she was little. She had one cloudy eye and a soft, careful way of moving, like she never wanted to bump into anyone. Sophie used to say Sadie understood her better than people did. And honestly, some days that felt true. They'd grown up side by side. Bedtime stories, backyard adventures, storm night cuddles. A kid and her dog in that quiet, unspoken way that feels more like family than half the people you share a house with. Losing Sadie wasn't losing a pet. It was losing the one creature Sophie trusted completely. I stepped into her room. The corner where Sadie's bed had been was empty. The little metal bowls we kept beside the dresser were gone, leaving faint circles on the floor. The worn rope toy that had lived under the desk was missing. The whole room looked wrong, like a staged version of Sophie's life, where someone had quietly erased the one living thing that made the noise bearable. I turned back to her. Where were you when you found this? I came home from school and it was there, she said. Grandma was in the kitchen. She said, we did what we had to do. Her voice slid into Brenda's clipped tone. Don't you dare start crying about it, young lady. It's just a dog. Sophie choked on a sob. She said if I made a scene, I'd go to my room without dinner, but Sadie's not here, so... I pulled her into my arms before she could finish that sentence. She shook against me, hot tears soaking into my work shirt. She smelled like school and salt and the faint dog shampoo that never quite left our clothes. It's okay, I lied into her hair. I've got you. I didn't say, it's just a dog. I didn't say, we'll get another one. I just held her until the worst of the shaking passed. Go sit on my bed, okay? I said quietly. Take your pillow. I'm going to talk to them. She nodded without looking at me and shuffled down the hall, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. I looked at the note again, at the part about Sophie's cousin Madison, at the last line. Don't make a scene. Right. I went downstairs. My mother-in-law Brenda and my father-in-law Gordon were at the kitchen table. Brenda had a cup of tea. Gordon had the newspaper spread open. They didn't look surprised to see me. Elena, Brenda said, like I'd just come in from the grocery store. You're home early. Where is she? I asked. Brenda tilted her head. Who? Sadie. Our dog, I said. Where is Sadie? Gordon folded the paper with a sigh. We found her a new home, he said. Some nice people from church. It was time. No, it wasn't, I said. Brenda rolled her eyes. We've talked about this. Madison doesn't like that dog. She's afraid of it. She told us she didn't want to come over anymore. What were we supposed to do? Lose our granddaughter because you insist on keeping an animal in the house? You have 2 granddaughters, I said. Brenda's mouth pinched. You know what I mean? Where does this nice family live? I asked. What are their names? That's none of your concern, Gordon said. We handled it. You should be thanking us. Less hair in the house, less smell, less responsibility for you. She wasn't your responsibility, I said. She was my daughter's dog. It's our house, Gordon said, like he was spelling it out for a slow child. We make the rules here. This isn't a rule, I said. It's theft. Brenda slammed her cup down hard enough that tea sloshed onto the saucer. Oh, for heaven's sake, you're being ridiculous. We rehomed a dog. Yeah, that's it. Children come first. Your daughter will be fine. She's old enough to understand that the world doesn't revolve around her feelings. She's 11, I said. And very sensitive, Brenda said pointedly. You've made her that way. I stared at them. There was a buzzing in my ears, but my voice stayed flat. You left a note on her door, I said. You didn't even look her in the eye. We knew you'd blow it out of proportion, Gordon said. We didn't want a scene. There it was, the math, laid out on the table. Madison's comfort on one side, my mother's dog and my daughter's grief on the other. The people who took Sadie, I said. Did you tell them she wasn't yours to give? Gordon's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. Brenda stood up and started stacking plates that didn't need stacking. We're not having this argument, she said. The decision is made. You can either accept it and help Sophie move on, or you can keep stirring her up and make this harder than it needs to be. I looked at her, at him, at the kitchen where I'd spent years cooking and cleaning and swallowing small insults in exchange for a roof over our heads. Okay, I said. Brenda relaxed, just slightly. Good. I'm glad you're being sensible. I walked out without another word. Upstairs, Sophie was sitting on our bed, clutching Sadie's old collar so tightly her knuckles were white. The little brass tag with my mother's number, now crossed out and replaced with ours, glinted in the lamplight. She's not coming back, is she? Sophie asked. They won't tell me where she is, I said. Yet. Sophie's eyes filled again. Grandma said if I cry about it, I'm being selfish, she whispered. She said Madison is scared and that Madison is family, like Sadie isn't. My throat hurt. I sat down beside her and pulled her close again. You are allowed to be sad, I said. You are allowed to be angry. What they did was wrong. Are you going to make them bring her back? She asked. I looked at the note on the nightstand, at the empty corner of her room. I'm going to do everything I can, I said. I'm not promising it will be easy, but I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen, and I'm not going to tell you to get over it. She nodded against my shoulder. They thought I'd tell Sophie to accept it. They thought I'd swallow it like I always had. This time, I didn't feel sad. I felt done. People always want a clean line they can point to. That's where it all went wrong. But things like this build slowly. One decision, one comment, one little shift that doesn't seem like much until you look back and realize the floor was moving the whole time. My husband Colin and I moved in with his parents when Sophie was still in diapers. We were both in school, both broke, and both drowning in the kind of optimism only people in their 20s have. We'll help you, Brenda said, meaning, we'll supervise you. You'll get back on your feet, Gordon said, meaning, you'll be grateful forever. It was supposed to be temporary, just until finals were behind us, just until we could afford rent, just until student loans cleared, just until became, why don't you stay a little longer? And before I knew it, 5 years had passed. We had money by then. Colin had a solid job. I had stable hours. We could have afforded our own place easily, but every time I brought it up, Brenda found a new way to twist the knife. Oh, Elena, she'd say, it's sweet you think you manage better on your own. You're not ready. Not with your background. Background meaning not as polished as my sister-in-law Alicia, not from a family they approved of. And Colin, sweet, conflict-avoidant Colin, said, maybe 1 more year, because keeping peace with his parents was easier than disappointing them. He didn't see it yet. He didn't see that we weren't living with his parents anymore. We were living under them. We paid the grocery bills, we paid the electric bill, we paid a chunk of the mortgage every month because interest went up. Colin fixed whatever broke. I cleaned and cooked and ran errands because Brenda always had a headache or a long day. And still, every time something didn't go their way, Gordon would remind us, this is our house. As if we lived here on luck, not labor. Then there was Alicia. Alicia floated into the house like royalty. Long hair, perfect makeup, high heels clacking across the floor like applause. She always had stories about her job, her workout group, her new friends. Brenda stared at her like she invented oxygen. And behind her came Madison. If Alicia was royalty, Madison was the heir. 11 going on 30, always with a fresh manicure and an opinion about everyone else's life. Brenda adored her. Gordon catered to her. Madison would sneeze and Brenda would bring tissues on a silver platter. Meanwhile, Sophie could cough blood and Brenda would say, she should drink more water. The favoritism wasn't subtle. When Madison visited, the whole house shifted. Brenda cooked her favorites. Gordon changed the TV to whatever she wanted. If Madison didn't like a blanket on the couch, Brenda removed it. If Sophie didn't like something, she's old enough to adjust, Brenda said. Don't indulge her. For Sophie's birthdays, we got a store cake. For Madison's, Brenda hired a clown, ordered catering, and filled the yard with balloons. It's just a bigger family this year, she insisted. Don't be jealous, Sophie. It's not attractive. And then there was Sadie. Sadie belonged to my mother first. She wasn't a puppy when I got her. She was already trained, already steady. My mother had vision problems and some mobility trouble, so Sadie learned to help her. Not through some fancy agency. My uncle hired a private trainer, and Sadie took to it like she'd been born for the job. She knew how to guide around obstacles, how to fetch dropped items, how to sense panic rising and ground a person just by pressing against them. When my mother died, Sadie sat by the door for 2 days. When she finally came with me, she walked straight into Sophie's room and lay down next to her crib. And that was that. Sophie had a dog, and the dog had a child. They grew up together, literally. And when Sophie was 3, Sadie saved her life. It wasn't dramatic like a movie. No fireball or collapsing building. Just Sophie climbing up on a toy box she shouldn't have, reaching for something, losing her balance. I was across the room folding laundry. I couldn't get there in time. Sadie did. She wedged herself under Sophie just enough to break the fall. Sophie hit carpet instead of the corner of the dresser. No stitches, no ambulance. Just a bruise, a scared kid, and a dog who stood guard over her the rest of the afternoon, like she was afraid the universe might take a second swing. Sophie never forgot that. Neither did I. But Brenda did. She hated dogs inside houses. They smell. She hated fur. It floats. She hated Sadie's bed in Sophie's room. This isn't a barn. And then Madison started complaining. That dog looks at me weird, Madison said one day, standing in the hallway. She's blind in one eye, I said. She's not staring. She's trying to figure out who's in front of her. Well, it creeps me out, Madison said. I don't want to come over if she's here. Brenda acted like Madison had made a proclamation from the throne. We'll figure something out, sweetheart, she cooed, brushing Madison's hair off her shoulder. You shouldn't feel unsafe in Grandma's house. Unsafe. From Sadie, who tripped over dust bunnies. I tried compromise after compromise. I offered to keep Sadie upstairs during their visits. I offered to crate her for short periods. I offered to take her out for long walks when Alicia and Madison came over. Not enough, Brenda said. Madison shouldn't have to worry. Children come first, Elena. By children, she meant one. Sophie noticed. Of course she noticed. Kids always do. When she asked why Madison got special cupcakes and she didn't, Brenda told her, because Madison is younger, sweetheart. You're the big girl. Big girls don't get jealous. Madison is 4 months younger. When she asked why Madison got the big present at Christmas, Brenda said, You understand sharing better, don't you? Madison needs the encouragement. And every time Sadie wandered into the room, Madison shrieked like she was being chased. One afternoon, when Madison refused to come inside because Sadie was sleeping on her cushion, Brenda said loudly, This dog is ruining family time. I said quietly, She's family too. Brenda looked at me with pity disguised as patience. It's just a dog, she said. Sophie was standing behind me when she heard that. She didn't say anything. She just knelt beside Sadie and buried her face in her fur. The older Sophie got, the more obvious it became. Sadie wasn't just a dog. She was the last piece of my mother. She was Sophie's anchor. She was the one creature in the house who never made Sophie feel like a guest in her own life. Brenda and Gordon hated that. They didn't want sentimental attachments getting in the way of their version of order, their version of family, their version of who deserved what. And they especially didn't want anything getting in the way of Madison. I should have seen the dog thing coming, but you never expect people to do the exact thing you told them would break your child's heart. And then the note happened, and suddenly everything made sense. The comments, the complaints, the sighs, the whispers, the children come first speeches. They hadn't snapped. They'd planned. And they'd chosen exactly which child came first. The morning after the note, the house felt like it was holding its breath. I called in sick before I even brushed my teeth. Family emergency, I said, and hung up before anyone could ask a question. Sophie wasn't going to school. She looked like she hadn't slept at all, and Sadie's collar was still clutched in her fist like she thought it might disappear too if she let go. Gordon left for work like he hadn't wrecked a child the day before. Brenda stayed in the kitchen making noise with the dishes. her usual signal that she was busy and couldn't possibly be questioned. Colin sat at the table with a mug of cold coffee. His eyes were on the hardwood floor. He looked sick. I set the note between us. "I'm asking one more time," I said. "Where is Sadie?" Brenda didn't even turn. "We told you. A nice family from church. A yard. Space. She'll be better off." "And their names?" I asked. "Address?" "That's private," she said. "We're not dragging strangers into your tantrum. You're only upsetting Sophie more. Let it go." "I'm making it worse," I repeated. "Not the people who took her dog while she was at school." From the hallway, Gordon barked, "She's gone. End of story. You should be grateful we didn't dump her at the shelter." I picked up the note, folded it, and walked upstairs. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just closed it gently, because rage came easy, but clarity needed quiet. I pulled Sadie's file box from under the bed. All her papers were there. The vet records, the vaccine sheets, the training receipts in my mother's handwriting, the microchip documents, everything I needed to prove she belonged to me, to Sophie. Not to the people downstairs who treated her like clutter. When I went back down, Sophie was curled on the couch hugging her knees. The TV was off. The house was heavy. "Do you want to help me find her?" I asked. Her head snapped up. "We can find her?" "We're sure as hell going to try," I said. We sat together at the coffee table. I took a breath and called the vet, told them Sadie was missing. They flagged her file. I submitted a stolen report with the microchip company. My hands shook. I kept going. Then I opened the neighborhood Facebook group. I typed, "My dog Sadie was taken from my home and rehomed without my permission. She's older, small, trained to help with mobility and anxiety. She belonged to my late mother and is my daughter's dog now. If anyone has seen a post offering a trained older dog recently, please message me. Photo in comments." I added a picture of Sophie reading with Sadie's head in her lap. Within minutes, sympathy. Within an hour, a few dead ends. By noon, nothing. Sophie kept twisting the sleeve of her sweatshirt. "Maybe she's in another city," she whispered. "Maybe they drove far." "We only know they lied," I said. "Everything else, we'll find out." Just after 2, my phone buzzed again. A message from someone I didn't know. "Hi, Elena. Someone in my church group shared this yesterday. Thought it might be her." Below was a screenshot. The moment I saw it, I felt my chest hollow out. The photo wasn't sharp, but it didn't need to be. Sadie sat on an unfamiliar porch, looking patient and brave like she always did. The caption, "Older assistance type dog. Well-trained, calm. $2,500 rehoming fee. Call for details." The number underneath belonged to Gordon. I stood so fast the laptop nearly slid off the table. "Colin." He came in, wiping his hands on a towel, eyes wary. I showed him the screen. He went pale. "That's my dad's number." "Yeah," I said. "It is." Sophie looked back and forth between us, confused and scared. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "they didn't rehome her for free." I messaged the woman back immediately. She sent me the name and number of the buyer, Martha. My thumb shook as I called. A cautious voice answered. "Hello?" "Hi, is this Martha? My name is Elena. I think you might have my dog." Silence. I explained everything in one breath. My mother, the training, Sophie, the note, the ad, Gordon's number. When I finished, I heard her gasp. "He told us she was his," she said. "He said you didn't want her. He said he was doing you a favor. We paid him $2,500. Her voice wobbled. "I'm so sorry. We didn't know." "I believe you," I said. "Can we meet? Somewhere public? Today?" "Of course," she said. "Please bring her papers. We'll give her back." We met near sunset in a shopping plaza parking lot. Martha and her husband Jim were standing beside their car. Sadie lay on a blanket between them. When she saw me, she stood, tail thumping once, twice, and then she trotted over and pressed her head into my leg like she was saying, "You found me." "Of course you did." I dropped to my knees and wrapped my arms around her neck. Sophie fell beside me, sobbing into Sadie's fur. Martha handed me the file folder. Jim swore quietly at the screenshot on my phone. They apologized. They promised to file their own complaint. On the way home, Sadie stretched across the back seat with her head in Sophie's lap. Sophie kept one hand on her collar like she was anchoring the world. Colin drove in silence, his jaw tight. "They sold her," he said finally. "My parents sold your mother's dog." "They did," I said. "I kept telling myself they were strict," he murmured. "But this is something else." He looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw him see his parents clearly. "We're leaving," he said. No hesitation. "We should have left a long time ago." When we got home, I tucked Sophie into bed with Sadie curled beside her. Then I went straight to the police station. I gave them everything: the note, the ad, the screenshot, the buyer's statement, the papers proving Sadie was mine. The officer typed for a long time. Then he said, "We'll follow up." When I walked back into the house, Colin was at the table with a notepad. "We can afford to move," he said. "I don't want to stay here another day longer than we have to," I said. He nodded. "Tomorrow, we pack." And just like that, the fear I'd carried for years, of rocking the boat, of upsetting them, of being difficult, cracked open and slid off my shoulders. Brenda and Gordon went to bed that night smug and satisfied, thinking the house was quiet again. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one lying awake wondering what they'd do next. I already knew. The knock came the next morning just after 9. I was at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee that had already gone lukewarm. Sophie sat across from me, poking at a slice of toast. Sadie was under the table, pressed against my feet. Upstairs, Colin was packing books into boxes. Down the hall, I could hear Brenda moving around in the living room, the murmur of the morning news drifting through. Then, 3 hard knocks on the front door. Not a neighbor knock, not a delivery. Gordon muttered something and got up. I heard his slippers shuffle across the hardwood. The door opened. "Morning, sir," a man's voice said. Calm. Official. "Are you Gordon Thompson?" "Yes," Gordon said. "Who wants to know?" "This is Officer Green with Town Police," the man replied. "We're here to follow up on a report about a dog that was taken from this address and sold. May we come in?" Silence. The kind that fills your ears. "What?" Gordon said. "That's ridiculous. It was just a family thing. Who called you?" "We'll explain," a second voice said. A woman this time, steady but not unkind. "Can we step inside?" I heard the door close. Footsteps. The living room TV turned off. Sadie lifted her head and huffed. "Stay," I whispered, mostly to myself. I couldn't hear every word, but some sentences carried down the hallway. "Advertisement posted from this number. The couple who paid you. Microchip registered to your daughter-in-law." And from Brenda, sharp and high. "This is none of your business. We found that dog a good home. It's not a crime to rehome an animal. It is a crime to sell property that isn't yours," the officer said. His voice didn't rise. That made it worse. "Especially when you misrepresent ownership. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to document what happened and explain the legal consequences." Sophie's eyes were wide. "Is Grandpa going to jail?" she whispered. "No," I said. "Probably not. But for the first time, Someone is telling him he can't just do whatever he wants. She nodded slowly. A few minutes later, footsteps came toward the kitchen. I straightened in my chair. The officers appeared in the doorway first. A tall man, a shorter woman with her hair in a bun, both in uniform. Their eyes flicked over me, over Sophie, over Sadie at my feet. "Elena?" the woman asked. "Yes," I said. "Thank you for coming in last night," she said. "We've spoken with your in-laws. We'll file our report and the prosecutor will determine how to proceed. At a minimum, they'll be required to repay the buyers and may face fines. If this moves forward, you'll get a letter." "Understood," I said. The man nodded. "We're sorry this happened," he said. "You did the right thing, reporting it." They left. The front door shut. The house was too quiet for 3 full seconds. Then Brenda and Gordon came into the kitchen. Gordon's face was red. Brenda's was white. "How could you do this?" Brenda hissed. "You called the police on us." "I reported a theft," I said. "They decided to investigate it." "You're destroying this family over a dog," she said. "Over a dog, Elena? Do you hear yourself?" "I hear you," I said. "I also heard you tell my daughter not to make a scene when you ripped away the last thing she had from my mother. I heard you tell me it was just a dog and that Madison's feelings mattered more. I heard you lie to strangers for $2,500. That money was for this house," Gordon snapped. "For bills, for repairs. You have no idea what it takes to keep this place going." "I do," I said. "I've been paying for it with you." He opened his mouth, closed it. The muscle in his jaw jumped. Brenda jabbed a finger toward Sadie. "She's here now," she said. "What more do you want? You got your way. Why drag the law into it? You think neighbors aren't going to talk? You think we aren't going to hear about this at church? For once," I said, "you get to worry about what other people think. Not me." "You're ungrateful," Gordon said. "We took you in when you had nothing. We gave you a place to live. We helped raise your child." "You also taught her that in this house, she comes second," I said. "I'm not letting that lesson sink in any deeper." At that moment, Colin came down the stairs carrying a box of books. He stopped in the doorway, taking in the scene. "Mom, Dad," he said. His voice was flat in a way I'd never heard before. "Enough." Brenda turned to him like she'd been waiting for backup. "Tell her she's gone too far," she said. "Tell her you won't stand for this. You are our son." "I am," he said. "And that's exactly why I'm not pretending this is okay." She froze. "You lied," he said quietly. "You took Sadie while we were out. You sold her. You told strangers we didn't want her. You watched Sophie come home and find a note on her door instead of a dog. You knew what that dog meant to us, and you told us to let it go." "We were going to talk about it," Brenda protested. "We were going to work something out." "No," Colin said. "You were hoping Elena would cry, calm down, and move on like always. And when she didn't, you got caught." Gordon snorted. "So what? You're moving out in a huff? Where will you go? You can't afford—" "We can," Colin said. "We've run the numbers. We'll manage. And at least when we pay rent, the landlord won't sell our dog." Brenda flinched like he'd slapped her. "You are really going to walk out on us?" she whispered. "We're not walking out," I said. "We're walking away. There's a difference." "We're your parents," Gordon said. "You had a chance to be my family's safe place. You chose to be the opposite." He picked up the box again. "We'll be out by the end of the month," he said. "We won't be paying your bills anymore. We won't be your backup plan." Brenda sat down hard in a chair. They didn't say anything to that. They slammed cupboards louder that week. They muttered about people who don't appreciate what they have. But they didn't apologize. They didn't mention Sadie. They never said the word sorry out loud. It didn't matter anymore. We found a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but the lease had our names on it and no one else's. On the last night in the old house, Sophie stood in her empty room and looked around. "I'm not going to miss it," she announced. "What about the tree in the yard?" I asked. "And your pink curtains?" "We can plant a new tree," she said. "We can get new curtains. It's not worth Sadie." She wasn't wrong. A year later, it's amazing how far the fallout reached. Once the police finished their investigation, Brenda and Gordon walked away with a small but permanent criminal record for theft and fraud. They had to repay all $2,500 to Martha and Jim, plus fines and fees they definitely weren't prepared for. Without our money and Colin's repair work, the house became too heavy to hold up. 6 months after we moved out, the for sale sign went up. They ended up in a cramped rental on the edge of town. Madison stopped visiting when she saw there was no yard, no extra bedroom, no reason to perform. For the first time, Brenda and Gordon learned what it felt like not to be the center of their own little universe. People tell me they still argue about it. "Maybe we shouldn't have gotten rid of that dog," Gordon mutters, as if Sadie was a bad investment, not a life they tore out of my daughter's hands. Still no apology, not one word. Meanwhile, Sophie and Sadie are thriving. Our home is peaceful, quiet, ours. So what do you think? Did we go too far or not far enough? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more.